Yeah.
Are you saying that, the first one is that from the chakra, where the seed mantras are, where the DJs are, the pedals?
Mm-hmm.
Is it from here is where the nadi pathways are created?
From where?
They're rooted and they start at the chakra, the nadi pathways from the DJs? Is that what I was understanding?
No, no. Some people say that, but they're wrong.
Okay. So yeah,
It does start here at the base of the spine.
No, right, but I'm saying when it connects to the chakras.
No, I'm going to show you now. So let's say you have the sex center, you have the base center, right? You have the solar plexus, you have the heart, you have the throat, and you have the Christ, right? Now, the nadis, once the Shaktic power goes into the 3.5 knot, right? And Kundalini is formed. Kundalini releases a sound. That sound releases the nadis. And the nadis travel up, right? And what it does, it actually go through the BGs. It passes through them. And it goes to the next. Once it passes through, it goes to the next and to the next. And each level, it passes through those seed mantras. Okay, that's how it's done. I know some people say that, the nadis come from the BJs, but the only BJs that actually come from is here.
Okay.
Okay?
And then the other question is, these here, the major ones.
Uh-huh.
Well, I guess it doesn't really matter if they're major, minor, whatever. But if there's intersections happening, the chakras, why would it matter on what side of the body that you sleep on? Like, explain that to me again.
Oh, that's just for the physical.
Okay.
Okay. That's mostly for the physical body. The heart is on your left side of the body. So you don't want to inhibit the physical heart. So you sleep on the right side of the body.
Okay. So I figured it had to do with
Yeah.
the physical part.
Yeah, that's the physical. Because the heart center is here.
I know, so it didn't make
Yeah,
sense to me.
but the reason why they tell you to sleep on your right side, because you don't want to inhibit the heart, on here. All right? That's all?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
In a lot of New Age understanding work, they talk about how the chakras are imbalanced or out of flux or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the case may be. How would you begin to convey the fact that your chakras aren't necessarily imbalanced, but that you have to purify the nadis?
Yeah, I mean,
Does it say,
you almost have to just let them, if they're not willing to listen, just let them be ignorant to a certain degree again.
but if they are, want to share, because a lot of the perception is that they're out of balance.
They're not out of balance. No, they're not out of balance. What is out of balance is how you use mind energy. Okay, that's what's out of balance. Okay, the chakras work perfectly, So,
They can never be in balance?
what?
They can never be made to be in balance through anything?
What, the chakras? The chakras works perfectly. Remember, The chakras are what?
Realms.
They're rims of existence, right? If I pollute this rim with toxic air, what happens? Huh? It becomes difficult to live in here, right? So is did the rim? I mean, did this room all of a sudden become imbalanced?
It is still the same room.
It's still the same room, and it's just following law. It's like me taking a ball and throwing it against the wall. If that ball is not, if that ball is thrown for me, it's going to bounce. It's going to bounce off the wall, right? But then if I take that same ball and put it in some type of gun and put some gunpowder behind it, it's going to go through the wall. Now, it's just following law. Did the wall somehow become imbalanced? No. It's just following the law. So the chakras, the chakras, it takes energy in and it sends energy out. Takes energy out and takes energy in. You have let's say if this is the heart chakra, it moves energy in and out of the auric space that you live within. It's not the chakras becoming imbalanced, it's the thoughts, because remember, we shape the energy that comes in, right? So what happens is that the chakras are working on some type of ultra level, right? It's working on some type of high level, and it's working on a base low level, right, of energy, all right? Always is doing that, in and out. It's always doing that. Now, these levels of energies also is mind level of energies as well, okay? They're mind level of energies. So it's not that the chakra is imbalanced, the chakra is doing the function. Now, what is the unique thing about the mind, right? The largest portion of the mind within the body, we're not talking about the mind outside of the body. So we're talking about the mind within this auric shell, right? That's where your mind is. What is the unique thing about this aspect of your mind?
Subconscious follows the
Huh?
law.
The subconscious what?
Follows the law.
It follows the law. All right? The subconscious mind is a loyal servant to the laws of karma. The laws of karma, or the lords of karma. It would never go outside of the law. Just like the superconscious mind. The superconscious mind does what? It does the same thing. It follows the laws of karma, right? It would never go outside the laws of karma. So to say that, and the subconscious mind actually takes care of what? The involuntary functions, right?
So when they say your vibration, what are they referring to?
When they say your vibration is what?
Well, when they say that your vibrational frequency, what are they referring to?
They're referring to your mind. The auric envelope, or the verities that you have what?
The waves on the outskirts of the aura,
Yeah.
that's your vibration?
That's what's distorting your vibration. Because what happens when you have, let's say, this is the aura, and you can see it if you have any type of psychic abilities. You can see this happen. Let's say this is the aura, and you create these crazy, all of these waves account for some type of weird type of thinking you have in your mind.
So the
Right.
body is distorted, but where is the original vibration, where is that coming from?
I'm going to show you right now. Let's say this is a vortex or chakra opening, right? What happens, you have this high frequency of spiritual energy entering this your auric body, right? You don't feel it because of these waves, right? Someone come and drop some great wisdom on you, and you can't understand it. You look at them as weird and crazy or whatever. Because why? Because in the middle of a storm, you don't necessarily hear a car coming, right? Or a person walking down the street. You can't even see them, right? So what we have created this storm in our mental bodies. Now, that's the negative vibration that we need to get rid of. The Lord Patanjali said that you must stop the what? The modifications, right? Because why? These are the modifications that's stopping you from understanding and tapping into the great spiritual flow of knowledge and energy and power. So the negative vibrations or distortions that they're talking about is just created from the character, from the habits, from the belief system that we have adopted inside of our mental makeup. Okay, it's not the chakras. The chakras are functioning just well. Okay?
What was the third one? Character, beliefs, and
The character,
beliefs?
your belief system, right? And I forgot what I just said.
Yeah, there were three things you said.
The character, belief system, and the habits.
Habits, yeah.
The habits, the habitual habits. You know.
Habits contribute to your character, right?
Yes. Well, the habits form the character. Right? And so when you take control over those things in your life and you begin to develop proper discrimination of what you're going to allow to do what? To become a part of your character and personality, then you begin to lower these waves because you don't believe anything. You allow something to be based on fact, right? On your own observation, your own logic of reasoning, and you are ready to allow someone to challenge that at any minute, right? Because it only does what? It only builds on who you are. Okay, you don't hide it. You're not afraid to hide what you know and what you understand, because you have allowed that to become a part of you by strict discrimination. Okay? So yeah, if the New Age people are telling you that your chakras are unbalanced and this, you know, it's not right. Now, what the yogis tell us, right, is that deep breathing, right, or at least the first 6 limbs of yoga helps to do what? Eliminate this. And in simple terms, what it does, it cleans the nadis, the nadi pathways. Okay? Because when you take control over your thoughts and actions, and when you begin to carve out your belief system, which you, in your thoughts and actions, right? You begin to control them by what? By accepting certain principles and accepting a way of life, right? And you place the observance of what? Huh? Of God, which is the same thing. A more living, more code of how you do things. You observe God in everything you do and everybody. And it have you to take on a different perception of people. Because if you view everyone as a divine spark of God that's on their journey in life, then you can say, well, they are where they are, and they're doing the best they can. And if I can help them, I will. You know? And you don't look at them as so much as a female, a male, a black person, a white person, a yellow person. You don't do that. You see them as this divine spark of God on a journey back to the great absolute. See? Then because this is the first limb, right? That's the second limb. And the third limb is that we're giving the positions of what?
Power.
Of power. Through what? Through practice of mudra, right? And then the fourth one is what? Pranayama, right? So the fourth limb is that you're taught the significance of pranayama, which is the control of what? Of the breath, of the subtle energies within the body. It's more than just the breath, but the control of the subtle energies, because the control of the breath gives you the control over the tremendous flow of energy that comes in through and out of the base of the spine. The tremendous flow of energy that comes in and out of the sex center and the heart center, and the solar plexus center, heart center, and Christ center, and throat center, right? You have the apana, right? That flows through here. You have the Vijnana that flows through here. The Samana that flows through here, right? And you have the Prana that flows through here, and the Udana that flows through here. Tremendous power, tremendous flow of subtle energy. And by the control of pranayama and the retention of pranayama, right, you begin to gain control over this. And what does that do? That begins to clean the pathways of the nadis. And it begins to synchronize the left and right side of the physical brain to prepare the physical brain to do what?
Receive higher inspiration.
To receive higher inspiration from those nadis, right? Which allows the Christ center or the third eye of the Ajna to do what? To get its commands to you, the basic you, the lower self, so that you can begin to do what? Follow the law of God. All right? And that's in simple terms, that's what it is. That's what it is.
And what
See?
do you mean by the law of God?
Karma,
The karmic law.
the karmic law. The karmic law is the law of God.
Basically, do unto others, right?
Yeah. And, you know, action and reaction is opposite and equal. See? So you begin to move and think within the rhythm of God. You know, you begin to understand that everyone has a place, and you have a place, and your place is mainly to serve others. You know, to make better, to be an added value, not to take so much. Okay? So and then when you get to the fifth limb is the pratyahara, where you withdraw your senses. By then, what happens? You already started the cleaning process, right? Of the nadis. So now when you begin to withdraw the senses, it's not as bad as it was before, you know. Because when you had this huge storm of all these crazy things going on in your head because of your attitude, your actions, your your habits. Every time you sit down, the latest gossip come in your head. you know, crazy TV shows, some crazy love novel book you just read. I mean, all those things come in your head. But then when you begin to discriminate and dismiss yourself from those things that's not an added value to you, your mind is calmer. So now when you begin to withdraw the senses in order to hear the voice of the silence, which is the soul and the spirit, now you can do it much easier and you can reach that spiritual peak quicker. That's why you're told to control your thoughts and actions, you know. And this is where, again, because remember, one of the first, what we talked about in the last 2 weeks of Yama, the first limb is about the control of what? Sex, right? The first thing you must do, right? Because this is something that really, especially in the Western world, you know, it's a real big problem, you know. So bringing control over your thoughts and actions, and the ojas within the body, which is the essence, the controlling the vital forces or fluids within the body, is a major thing to this, because you would never ever be able to control your mind and reach high spiritual levels of concentration and contemplation without Yama, without the control of the ojas. You will never be able to do it. That's why you find people that go and do these concentration practices and pratyahara practices for years, but they forget to do the main thing, is Yama and Niyama. And they don't develop themselves spiritually. They don't reach those spiritual elevated states that they read about, and that's why. So it's a cleansing of these nadis, and that's how you cleanse the nadis, by right thought, right action, by following the laws, okay? So it's not the chakras that's in balance. It's not. Okay. That the chakras are only doing what you gave it to do. You know, if I walk out on a busy highway and I get hit by 4 or 5 cars and survive, then I lived through what I did to myself. You know, and my body is going to respond under the law. The law say I have broken back, broken arm, leg. That's what that's my karma. That's the negative karma I brought upon myself. Or that's the karma that I need in order to learn, in order to move past my state of mind of where I'm at.
So you see karma as a punishment?
No, it's not a punishment. It's a law. It's a lesson. It's lessons. Yeah, it's a cause and effect. It's lessons that you know. This life is a classroom. This earth is a classroom, and we're here to learn. We're here to learn, and it's the laws. The laws frame. It frame. In other words, we live in a framework of karma. Karma is the thing that pushes us from one life to the next life, to the next life, to the next life. It's our karma and the collective karma of the people that we're with. Because a lot of people that you deal with in this life, you might be dealing with them for the next 10 lives. You know. You know.
Opposite of what is being taught right now from the law of attraction.
Yeah, but the law of attraction is okay. It speaks for itself. The law of attraction speaks for itself. The law.
Where the effect is first and then the cause is secondary.
No. No. The law of karma is exact, and it was written down thousands upon thousands of years ago. Now you can. This whole law of attraction and this whole, I forget, there's a couple of groups out there, got these different things they're talking about. That's, you know, it's nothing wrong with that when it's done properly. But, you know, years ago they were saying, let the whole world experience wealth, but let me get mine first. And that, a lot of those groups that out there that promote this law of attraction, that's the type of mentality they got. And that's wrong. You know, that's not, you know, because it's the intent behind something that actually gives that thing its power and direction of where it's going. So if I have a selfish intent, what's the end of that? It can't be good, right? You know, but if I have an unselfish, you know, intent, then it can grow and become something bigger. You know, so I don't agree with a lot of these little, and it's a get-rich scheme for the person who's promoting it in most cases. You know.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How do we apply this to people that are Reiki healers
Mm-hmm.
and we were taught to, some people say let's balance the chakras or unblock the chakras. So this and that is not.
Go back to the original Reiki healing books that was written way back in the 1800s. I mean, go back to those Eastern books that explain Reiki healing, and I'm sure they agree with me. You know, the popularity, the whole make this thing so that everyone wants it, and make it simple so that people can understand it. Sometimes that get in the way of people truly understanding something.
And it loses the core.
It loses the core. Understand this. You have the energies that the vortex, this vortex center called a chakra is pulling in cosmic energies from the sun, from the earth, from the moon, from the planet, from the planets of the solar system, and is calibrating these energies and producing this thing called life. You know,
The Life-Force energy.
trillions of times on this earth. And you mean to tell me it's in balance? It doesn't make sense.
That's what I'm saying. This and that is.
I'm saying the energy is not in balance.
Yeah.
So for them to tell you that it's in balance is wrong. Just go back and study the teachings. I mean, you have this tremendous, you have everything works in sync. Everything.
But people are setting themselves up as false authorities, you know, and
Yes.
healers and all this.
Yes. And that's a big problem. It's a big problem. It's a big problem. I mean the earth turns on its axis perfectly. The moon comes and does the cycles and keep the water from flooding us perfectly. And it's been doing this for for billions of years. And all of a sudden it's imperfect? It's not. It's not. It's the environment of our own auric structure that we have polluted the aura. We have polluted, we have inhibited our own nodic, the own nodic pathways. And the nadis are the things that produce consciousness within you. When those nadis travel up and intersect, you can have different levels of consciousness, okay? So what's happening is that you clog the nadis. The same way with heart attacks. Yeah. You know, you have too much platelets or whatever build up inside the heart. You have this calcium type, and it clogs the flow of the blood, and then all of a sudden the heart doesn't have that electrical spark anymore. And when it goes through the knobs can't produce that sound, and then all of a sudden you have an arrhythmia, and you start, and you can't, you can't.
So it works like the nadis get clogged first, and then it manifests in the body.
It manifests in the body, and it manifests in the mind.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It manifests in the mind where you can't think certain thoughts, where you can't go beyond certain things. Let's say if you have an attraction to a particular thing, that attraction, you become mesmerized over that particular subject, object, or person. So someone come and tell you something negative about that, you can't accept it. You can't even hear them. You don't want to even begin to think down that way. That's a blockage.
There's another law. It says law of non-assertion, that I can't interfere in anybody else's projection of their reality.
No, I don't believe that. I mean, in the sense that what's going to happen is going to happen.
Right, but
So
one entity can't assert into, like the whole business of Reiki is that one person is asserting something into your system.
No. See, that's another thing. This is my knowledge of Reiki healing, and you can look at it mathematically, right? When I touch this table, what happens? Exchange of energies. Exchange of what? Is in chemistry, they tell us what happened just now. There was a chemical bonding that happened, right? In fact, they can mathematically do what they call a electronic configuration of what happened. They can put it down mathematically on a board, and then they can go and look for traces of it. Okay, traces of my DNA is left here. And now my DNA become a part of this table, right? So there's always an exchange of energy. So with Reiki, what's happening with Reiki, if I gain control over my mind does what? Mind controls what? Energy. It molds and shapes energies on all levels. On the most subtle level, right? On an astral level and on a gross level, on a level of gross matter. So if I train myself to radiate energy from the palms of my hand into a person's auric structure, right? Then and I make this, and when I release this energy, I release it with a mental configuration of spiritual healing energy. It will affect that person's body.
And the opposite also would have to be true, that somebody thinking bad thoughts can harm
It can harm them too. So you have to become trained. You have to be trained to focus your thought and make sure that you don't think about nothing else except that. Okay, because you can be placing negative energy within that person's body.
You do yourself harm and the person.
You do yourself harm and that person. So you have to actually be trained to be able to hold a concentrated thought you know, at least on the trigger of that thought, because thought energy moves quicker than light. So when you release that thought, you got to make sure that that was a pure thought. You know, so in your trigger of that, it has to be good. Now, if you're doing healing and you can't focus, stop the healing. Stop the healing, walk around, get your thoughts right, you know, silence your mind, and then go back. Because if you don't, you can do harm to that person. So it works, but a person has to be properly trained. Now, the whole thing about it, like I said, is not the chakra. It's the nadis flowing through the chakra. The nadis is a mental thought form that flows through the chakras, right? And those when those nadis come in, they may not be giving the lower aspects of your being the proper configuration to bring about proper thinking, proper health, proper whatever. See, so that's the problem. It's not the chakras being unbalanced. It's the energy that you manufacture and push through that in order to feed the aura, in order to maintain life within that physical life within the aura. In other words, remember the aura is our atmosphere. You know, it's our atmosphere. So it's a thing that keeps that physical body, astral body, etheric body alive on the various realms of existence.
Like a bubble suit.
Yes. So it's not the unfortunately, I know a lot of Reiki people hate to hear this, but when they study the teachings, and I tell you, don't take my word for nothing. Go back and study the ancient teachings. It's right there. It's in books that was written, you know, that was translated hundreds of years ago.
But it makes sense, you know, when you get a massage with somebody, sometimes you feel energized, and other times you get a massage, you feel dreadful.
Yes.
So it depends on.
It depends on who it is. It depends on who it is. I know a close friend of mine. Every time she goes to greet someone, she can feel their energy immediately. And before she won't shake their hand or whatever because of their energy level.
Well, that's why in India you don't shake hands, you do this.
Yes.
This is a way you neutralize energy.
Yeah. So they won't, you know, so it's and then they said Madame Blavatsky was the same way, you know, and a lot of people are that way. They don't, you know, they can look at a person, they can see their energy level, and they can know whether they're producing negative energy or whatever, and they don't want to really come into contact with them. So, you know, it's because of that. You know.
Look bad though. You see the person and you don't want to. You want to touch them. Yeah, it looks bad.
But you know, that's the way it is, though. You know.
Yeah, you're doing it your way, as opposed to be like, oh, no, it's part of my practice, and it's not, oh, now you're not doing it. You're just weird.
So everybody kind of understand this now? Okay.
Ricky's haven't, when you're giving spiritual healing, are you healing through the Ricky's, or the Ricky is still impacting you?
Well, you have control over that energy. That's why you have to develop a strong, concentrated mind during that moment. Because when you shoot that energy into that person's chakras, you know, their aura and their chakras, what you're doing is shooting that like a bullet, you know. So you shooting it through the wave, through the, you know, and you're there actually to battle that infection that's there, because yeah, it can, but you're taught how to protect yourself. So once you balance the flow of energy, or flush out the flow of energy of those nadis, because that's essentially what you're doing. But when now understand, when the nadis pass through the chakras, that's part of the chakras. And maybe that's why people say there's an imbalance. But I'm giving you the real thing, because the nadis is not the only energy that's in fact, the nadis is more of a foreign energy than a than a domestic energy. You understand what I'm saying?
Subtle.
Huh?
It's subtler.
No, because the nadis is something that's newly configured and pushing through there, because it's constantly changing. But you have this tremendous, it's just like you have this tremendous Tantric rays that hit the earth, right? In this pure state. But once it hit the earth atmosphere, right, it changes its configuration. It's modified by the earth. We were told in the book of Rama Prasad, The Nature's Final Force, is that when the energy come to the earth, akasa, the energy of akasa, surrounds the whole earth. It creates a screen, and then the other 4 Mahabhutas enter through akasa to the earth. And then it blankets the earth. And they say that's why when we look up to the sky is blue, because that's akasa. And akasa is the carrying energy for the other Mahabhutas, the other energies.
Did you say carrying or carrying?
Carrying. It carries the other bhutas throughout this solar system, throughout the galaxy, throughout the universe. So you have this tremendous power that's coming from literally gods. The sun is like a mighty god. And you mean it's imbalanced? The energy is imbalanced? No, the energy is not imbalanced. The energy is only responding to the environment.
Well, what do you think about the sun causing cancer disease?
Huh? It's ridiculous. It's the inferior bodies that we have built for ourselves. It's not the sun. It's not the sun. That's ridiculous. So I mean, just go back and study those original books. I think they're online. I may have put one online.
Yeah.
I didn't read it all, but I think they're online. If not, email me and I email it to you. Is there any other questions?
I have a question. How do you, or is it possible, if it's possible, how is it done? To the exception of raising up Kundalini, to will your conscience to work from a higher center or pull from higher center?
I just explained that to you.
Yeah, like an easier day-to-day type of thing. Like,
That's a day-to-day thing. That's a day-to-day thing.
no, not rushing, but like, say,
That's a day-to-day thing right there. Try to live right. Respect all the people around you.
When they say, how do you speed it up?
You speed it up. You speed it up by doing those things. Another way is that you do the practices. You got to. It's a practice. Listen, if you want to be a great athlete, what do? You practice every day. So it's the same thing with your mind. What's taking control over your mind? Do your prayers. Discriminate. Do your mudras. Do your mantras. You got to do those things. Do your pranayama. You got to do it every day. And those are, the pranayama practices. The pranayama practices are great concentration practices. You breathe in. You have your eyes closed. You count the number of breaths. I mean, not the number of breaths, but you count the length of your breath. And that's your count. That's no one else's count. You got to make up your own count. And you imagine that the energy goes down the spine, both sides of the spine. And then when you breathe out, you imagine that the energy is coming up Shushana, up the spine, and you bring it out 6 inches in front of your forehead. With every breath, you do that. And that becomes your whole world. That becomes your whole world. Why are you doing that? And at the end, Dr. King gave a good affirmation. Affirmations are good too. You can use affirmation every day. You know, what anybody remember the affirmation? I am now purifying my mind and body with the mighty power of God, right? And when you bring, after a while in your concentration, you will begin to see this energy come up because you stare upwards and you know, while you have your eyes closed, and you'll begin to see the energy exit and go 6 inches in front of the forehead. You'll begin to see it, you know. And that purifies your nadis. And it's a good concentration practice. So do it every day, and you'll see the results. What it take people 4 and 5 and 6 hours to do or think, you'll find that you can do it in 15 minutes to 30 minutes. That'll be the first thing you notice, that you can outthink most people around you, you know. And you begin to see the spiritual essence of everyone around you, you know. So now when you don't see the spiritual essence, go back and check yourself. When you don't feel elated, then it's something in you that's not pushing you in that direction. I know most people or most books don't tell you that, but I'm telling you that is the truth. You know, even Swami Sivananda told us this. Most of the great yogi masters told us this.
So if you're not seeing God, then something's wrong.
Yes, if you're not, yeah, you're not, because I mean you're doing something wrong if you're doing these great spiritual practices and you're not spiritualizing yourself, you're not elevating your thoughts, you're not beginning to see and hear the God everywhere, then something's wrong. You got to go and recalibrate yourself. You're missing something, see, because you should be able to notice and see God all around you.
Now, the word God is so loaded.
I know, but don't.
What's your definition of God?
Absolute, everything. The creator of all things, Shiva. I mean, that's the way I see it. You know, I mean, you can't, don't get so academic with it. But and then another thing too, which I tell most of my students, don't allow the great teachings to be culturalized.
Become what?
To cultural, to be culturalized, because just like you was talking.
But sound has so much power, and every time you say God, you think of the 3 patriarchal religions, you know.
Yeah, well,
That's
don't
where God comes from.
don't do that.
If you say I invoke the power of Shiva, then that brings a whole different vibration.
Yeah, but still, don't let it take you, because if I say Shiva to a bunch of Christian people, they may come after me with sticks. You know, I was in a church one time, and I was at a funeral, and I invoked the power of Brahma, and oh my God, they started looking, they got upset with me, you know, and I had to explain to them Brahma is only God. You know, but
you're talking about the power of mantras. Mantras are nothing but sound. So when you make the sound God,
well,
it's a whole different vibration.
Well, mantra is more than something. It's more than sound. You know, mantra is is more than sound. Mantra is the sacred sounds of God. It's a sacred holy sounds of the Absolute. You know, in fact, when the sun created the solar system through mantra.
It's magnetic field, yeah.
And it maintains and sustains it
So do you
through
say Om Namah Shivaya?
through sound. You know.
Are you allowed to chant Om Namah Shivaya?
Well, what I do, I don't chant mantras out openly. if I don't know, if everybody don't know the mantra, unless that mantra have lived within me. So because that's the law of mantra. You don't give a mantra to someone who have not been initiated into a mantra, you know, but you seek a way for them to be initiated into a mantra.
There's certain basic mantras, like the Gayatri mantra.
Yeah, I know.
But
Even
those basic mantras you don't invoke?
I do in my private in my private practice of mantra.
But without those mantras, then the teaching of the body, you know, how the body is working, how the mind is working, without mantras, it's kind of hollow, right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, I teach all of that. Go read my book. You'll see.
I've started reading.
Yeah. So, but the thing about it, mantra is very sacred, and
Sacred meaning secret.
no, well, it's holy in a sense, and it should be handled in a very reverent way, and you know that's my belief system. That's the way I was taught. Yeah, I think that's one of the great laws of karma. You know, in fact, not only Sivananda, Swami Vivekananda, Dr. Sri Yogi George King, he said it as well, that a mantra should be given to a person by an adept or a master of mantra. And because why? Because when they give that mantra to that student or disciple, they give a part of themselves, because when I pronounce something, when I'm speaking to you right now, that's my consciousness speaking to you. That's the essence of my soul. That's my Kundalini. And I am coding your aura. So when you have a great spiritual master give you the great sacred words, they deposit that mantra within you. And now that mantra can live within you quicker than it would live in you if they did not give it to you. Okay? In other words, you can connect to that mantra, and that's the essence. The time that mantra began to work within you, or work within someone who read it from a book, is totally a difference.
The original rishis didn't get it from other people. They got it from nature directly.
They did. But how did they do that? They did that through what? They did that by raising the power of Kundalini. They raised the power of Kundalini within them. They brought the power of Kundalini up to a particular psychic center. They opened that psychic center, and they heard the great word or words, right? You know, they heard the great AUM from the sun, or they heard they heard the different mantras, like the water, the running of water have a particular mantra to it. A tree have a particular mantra to it. The wind have a particular mantra to it. So they began to hear these things, but they only did it in an elevated state of consciousness. You know, when they were able to take control over the power of Kundalini, enlarge that Kundalini at a particular state of mind or level of consciousness, then they were able to tap into their sensory perception at that level and hear the great sounds of nature.
So instead of getting it secondhand,
Yeah.
why isn't there a process for us to go directly into nature and experience the mantras of nature within ourselves?
You can. Right now, there's a yoga practice right now that you can go and you can sit beside a river. Most of them say a river or maybe even the ocean. And you go into the silence, right? And you wait to hear the great mantra on the waters, right?
Should you submerge fully with just?
No, you don't have to get in the water. You can step outside. You can stay on the banks of the water, and you can go there and you can go into the silence, and you wait to hear. You elevate your consciousness. You can do like a pratyahara type concentration, and after a while, you should hear the sound of OM. It goes in cycles as the water ripples, okay? And I mean, that's one of the first stages of hearing that. And that's the type of sound that water makes.
All the gurus, they withdraw into a forest,
Yeah.
and then they come out after years.
But that's
in the forest.
but that's why they do that, so that they can connect like that.
So I think it's better to go directly into nature, yeah.
Can you say that the benefit of a master that leaves that behind for you is that after all that effort that you did, it's certainly to help raise his spirit that comes after him? It's like
Yes.
being a light post. So to guide the way and to say, I did all this effort and I leave it for you so that you can develop yourself quicker.
Right, but when there's intermediaries, there's always an interpretation, because however great the master, he's interpreted it according to his life experience. His intention may be sterling, but now it's second. It's like me saying, I will connect to you and then you connect to the power source, rather than me saying, I'm going to go directly to the power source and you go directly to the power source.
Or it's like him saying, I leave a light here for you so that you can go quicker to your life source.
Well, that's
You don't have to believe me
No, no.
or him, you have to believe him, but you can try it to see if that works for you, and if it doesn't, you continue on.
Well, the only way,
What it does is creates hierarchy, you see. Then
but the only way.
okay, they're more connected, and so-and-so is less connected.
No, not really,
Create the
not
hierarchy.
really. I mean, if you want to take it that way, but what you want to do, the nanny comes from a master or a Riji. That's the way we get it, and then that takes us on a journey to become that master or Riji, and then and then we pass it on so that someone else can become that too. So, I mean, that's the way it happens. I mean, you don't have to look at it on a negative way because, and then another thing, a lot of masters, a lot of yogi masters, or just masters of whatever, they bring a different perspective. Each one of them bring a different perspective. Normally it's the same thing, but it's just looking at it from a different way so that it can expand the pool of knowledge and wisdom here on earth. In other words, they open a different level of the mind belt around to allow us to move forward. And that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But you would never get there. You would never get there without a master, without an adept pointing the way and guiding you and telling you what to do, because all the books in the world can't get you there. It takes someone guiding you over those first couple steps in order for you to trigger something to move forward. It's unfortunately, but that's what it is. Is there any questions online? Okay. Any other questions? I want to go deeper into concentration. I guess I'll finish it up next week. In order to get into the deeper practices of that Sir Arthur Avalon talked about in his book.
Well, the reason I asked my question is because during the 12 lessons, we're using, pulling more from higher centers that we don't normally use in our day-to-day lives. My question, my thought was like, okay, how do I maintain that type of state where I'm not just going up in the practice and come back down to be normal, but to stay in that perpetual type of elevated state?
Well, do you really want to do that? Can you do your IT work in the elevated state? Can you go to work and work on all those computers in the elevated state? No, you cannot. You have to live in the practical world, But the body, the nadis will synchronize themselves in order to in order to radiate a percentage of energy out to the world because you were just in that elevated state, in other words. So your mind is working on a different level. Every time you elevate your mind and come back down, your mind is calibrated differently. So I mean, but you can't be in the clouds and do your day-to-day work. You know, we have to function in this world in a practical way. You know, so that's what you got to think. Don't become the glassy-eyed type, peace and bliss person and contribute nothing. You have to be practical. You have to be able to make things happen, Just like you was talking about 20 years of bringing your thing together and doing your 2 acres. That's very practical. That's going to be a huge contribution, So that's what you have to be practical. Don't become the glassy-eyed type person, because they can say beautiful things, but what's behind that? So you have to be practical. So do your 12 blessing, push the energy out, and every time you do it, and you get to a high level, believe me, when you come back, you're going to be radiating a little bit more energy than what you was a couple of weeks ago. And it's going to happen in a natural way, and you become a natural magnet for those people who seeking that type of lifestyle. You'll find that you become a magnet, even if you don't know. You may not know for years later. I mean, I had people tell me that, like I was giving advice to someone, and it was like 10, 15 years later, a person come back and tell me, say, I heard what you said, and that was meant for me too, and it changed my life. You may never know. And I didn't know that the person was even listening. So, but you become that source all around. So that's what you want to be. Is there any other questions?
Question is, statement is chakras are processing realms of energy, or rather are chakras processing, do chakras process realms of energy? I'm not sure.
Chakras are realms of existence, and they are levels of consciousness. So that answers that person's question. Remember, the energy, the only thing that makes a realm of existence is consciousness. When you think about it, if there was an ant in this room, that ant is living on its realm of a consciousness, but it's sharing this same physical realm with us. But it is the realm of consciousness of that ant that makes this physical realm possible for it. It's not living on a human level of consciousness. The same thing about the fish, the whale, the dog. They're all living on the physical realm, but they're living on their realm of consciousness. So the same thing with us. If that's it, we can close out.
New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power, to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up and in doing so receive to their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength, so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Grant it energy to sing on forever and forever.